Hi guys, welcome to another lecture from Conference Labs, and in this episode we are going to do JSON parsing. While consuming the web service, we will use four iOS frameworks. First one is Alamofire. Alamofire is used to make network calls and to request the data from the API URL. Second one is ObjectMapper. ObjectMapper is used to convert JSON string into the model classes, so that we can easily fetch variables and use them wherever we want to use. Okay. Third one is PromiseKit. PromiseKit is used to handle callbacks, or you can say completion handler, in a more cleaner way. Okay. And the last one is AlamofireImage. AlamofireImage, we will use this framework to download image from the URL. Okay. So let's get started. Let's create a new project, single view application. Next, my JSON sample. Next, I'm creating the project on my desktop. Okay, now just close it because we want to install pods inside my project folder. So first of all, let's open terminal. We'll switch to the desktop. Now on my desktop I have my JSON sample. I'll press tab after writing my, then it automatically completed my project name. Enter. Now I'm inside my project. Let me show you. Right now we don't have any pod file here, so now we'll write the command pod init. Now you can see we have a pod file here. Let's close the terminal. Let's open the pod file now, and below this statement target your project name do, we will write all the required pods here. Okay, so these are all the frameworks that would be required in this tutorial. Okay, Alamofire. Let's search the pod statement here. There it is. We'll copy that and paste it here. ObjectMapper. Here's the pod statement. ObjectMapper would be used in converting JSON string to the model classes. PromiseKit to handle callbacks. AlamofireImage to download images from URL. Now we are done with the pod statement. These are all four pods that would be required by us in this tutorial. Let's close the project. Again, let's open the terminal. Again, cd desktop, then my JSON. Now we will type the command pod install and wait for the pod to get installed. Now let's close the terminal. Pods are installed. Now we will open the project from this workspace icon instead of this code project icon. Here you can see all the pods. Now let me show you the web service, or you can see the API URL that we are going to pass. So this is the API URL here. Okay, and this is the response when we will hit this API using Alamofire. Then this is the response. This is the actual response that we would get. Okay, so it is starting with a JSON object, curly braces. So if you guys are less familiar with the JSON object or JSON concept, then you can watch my previous episode on web services, in which I have explained what is JSON and why the web services are required at first place. So you can watch those previous episodes. So let's get back to this response. So this response is getting started with the JSON object. As you can see, the curly braces inside the JSON object, the main JSON object, we have an actors array. Array is starting with the square brackets, and inside actors array we have different JSON objects. The first element is from here to here, and then second starts from here to here. To get a better understanding, we can copy the whole response and paste it in the JSON formatter and validator, and process it. So let me show you full screen. In this way we can get a better understanding. We can close each of the element inside array, and we can even close the whole API. So this is the response of the API. First of all, we are getting JSON object, then inside it we are getting actors, which is an array, and then inside it we are getting multiple JSON objects, and inside each objects we have this key value, key value, key value thing. Okay, so this is all about the response. This API has been provided by Wingnity, and they also have a very good Android tutorial, which is uh, a bit outdated but still a pretty good tutorial to understand the basics of web services in Android. Okay, so this is what we are going to implement. We are, in the similar way, we have actors, list of actors. First is Brad Pitt, then Tom Cruise. We have each actor's description, country, image, URL. So by using this response, we are going to create such a table view. We will be having image view, name, description, label, etc, etc. So let's do it practically. Okay, so first of all, let's copy the API URL. Command C and create a constant file, new file, Swift file. Next, let's name it constants, create. So here we can have variable API URL. Inside we can save our API URL as a string, and now this is a global variable. It can be used throughout our project anywhere. Suppose if I'll type API URL here, then I can use it. Okay, now the next thing is to show a list, to show a table view. We need to create table view with its cell class and all. So I have already created it. Okay, so if you guys don't know how to create table view, then again you can watch my lecture on table view. So here's the table view. The outlet has been connected to the view controller, and UI table view cell class is actor cell. This is the actor cell class. The outlet for all these labels and image views has been created in our actor cell. Okay, and the code of this table view inside view controller has been implemented in the view controller class. UI table view delegate data source, number of section table view, and here's the cell for row function, in which the cell is gets returned. Okay, now we will create a model class for our response of the API. Let's name it actor API response. Create class actor API response. So let's go to the response. So first of all, we will get this whole packet in our response. When we open it, inside it we have actors. Okay, so which is an array. Okay, so let's create so this is the actor API response. Inside it we have actors array. We can name it anything. This is the reference variable name, so we can name it anything we want. I'm naming it actors, which is an array, and it can be empty, so we are using the optional symbol. And what type of array, I don't know yet. Okay, so let's move to next. Inside it we have actors. Okay, inside this actors array we have multiple elements. Each element represents an actor. Okay, so let's create a class for this thing. Class actor. Okay, each actor has its name, description, country. So let's create it. Each actor has its name, which is gonna be a string. Okay, then description, which is again gonna be a string. Then we have country, and let's say we are gonna use a spouse, where country, again a string, where spouse, again string. Okay, so now we know what we have inside our actor is this actor. So actors is an array of actor, okay, of type actors. So here we can define the type of actors array, which is actor. Okay, now let's convert these normal classes into ObjectMapper classes, ObjectMapper model classes. Import ObjectMapper. So sometimes it may show you error here. Okay, so in that case you can run the project or build the project. The error would be automatically resolved. Okay, so to make it an mappable class, we need to implement the protocol mappable, which is provided by this ObjectMapper framework. Okay, now we need to get a required init here, required initializer. Now mappable protocol also provide us an function which is mapping, and inside this function we will do all the mapping. Like actors array is inside the key actors, so actors is inside the key actors, so we can copy that. Okay, again we have to make this one also mappable, required initializer, and the mapping function which is provided by this mappable protocol. Okay, and inside this we have name, which is inside the key name. Then we have description. We've created a des variable for it, which is inside the key description. Then we have spouse inside the key spouse. So as you know, JSON is key value pair, so we fetch the value corresponding to the key. Okay, now country, inside the key, country. Okay, so now we are done. Now first of all, let me correct the stupid mistake made by me. We'll replace this equal to sign by this colon sign. Equal to means we are assigning some value to this actors variable, which is definitely not we are doing. We are just letting our program know that this actor would be the type, this actors variable would be the type of an array of type actor. Okay, which could be nil, so we use this optional sign here. Now we'll create a class inside our project. We'll first select this folder, then we'll create a new class here in which we are going to manage all our network calls. We'll name it API Manager. Create class API Manager. Okay, first of all create the initializer. Initializer is like constructor in Java. Okay, now let's import the Alamofire. Import Alamofire. Again, if this would show error at your side, then you need to build your project. Okay, now we'll create an object. Now we want this class to be a singleton class, because we could have multiple screens that through which we can call different network calls. Like if we are creating an e-commerce app, from cart screen we will call the cart API, from product screen we will call the product API, and all the API code or network calls would be written in this class. So we don't want to create multiple objects of this class. We want a singleton object, this class, that should be used throughout our application. So let's create a static variable, static let's name it shared. Okay, and So shared is the object now for the API manager class. And now let's make this initializer private, so that private, so that no one else can create the object of API manager outside this class. Okay, now let's create a function fetch actors from API from API. Okay, so to hit a request to the a URL, first of all write Alamofire here, Alamofire, and we have a request function in Alamofire. Inside this we'll pass the URL, API URL that we have created in our constant class. On this request we'll get a response. Okay, so we will use the response string completion handler here. So let's clear everything else and put the curly braces. Inside this callback we will get the response in. Okay, so let me brief you again. Using Alamofire we hit a request to a API URL. After microsecond or seconds it will return the response to us. Okay, and response will be grabbed inside this response variable. Okay, the response could be a success or response could be a failure, so we will use a switch statement over this response dot result of the response could be a success or failure. So we will have first case, which would be success. In case of success, it means we get this response. Okay, this complete response. In case of success, we would get this response. We can get it in this response string variable. Okay, and we can also print it here, response string. Okay, then case of failure, okay, dot failure. In case of failure we would get an error. We can store the error in this variable, and again we can print an error here. Okay, so hit a request to an API URL, get response in return. Response could be a success or could be a failure. In both cases we can print successful response and error in case of failure. Okay, but that's not all what we want. We want this response to be converted into the model class. Okay, so that we can easily use this name, country and spouse name on our table view. Okay, so by watching this I just forgot one more thing, that is image URL. That would be string also, image URL, and the key for this would be image map image. Sorry, so image is the key for image URL. Okay, so done. Let's get back to this API manager. Let's convert all this JSON string. What we are having in this response string is this whole response. Okay, so now we will convert this whole JSON string into our model class. Actor response is equal to name of the class, actor API response. Then inside it we would pass this response string and give the parameter name. Parameter name would be JSON string. Okay, JSON string. Okay, so now this line will convert all our JSON response into the model class. Now we will all these values like Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise and other details would be mapped here in our model class here. So suppose for example I want to access this name Brad Pitt. What I need to do is I can use this variable actors, which would be holding all the actors like this, which would be holding all the actors. Okay, so I would access the 0th element of this array. 0th element would be this one, okay, and inside this I want to access the key name, okay. So I would first access the 0th element, then I could access the name variable easily, okay. So this is just an example to tell you the whole concept, okay. So now the next step is we fetch the response from the API URL. We converted it into a model class, okay. Now we need to create a data source array inside our view controller so that we can show the data on our table view, okay. So we'll create an array. Let's name it data source array. You can name it anything else, okay. It would be the type of vectors, okay. Initially it would be nil, and now the number of rows would be according to the values inside this array, data source array. So we'll return the count, okay. So in cell we have cell dot name label, okay. So name would be set from this data source array. A particular through index part.pro we will access the particular value of this data source array. This data source array is the an array of type vector, so we can each of the element of this data source array would be having a name, a description, a country name, a spouse name, and image URL. So we can easily access the name here. To unwrap the optional, cell dot country dot text is equal to data source array, again the same code, index path dot row, and country here, unwrap it, okay. It's showing some oh no error. Copy this, paste it. Now we have spouse, yes, again change spouse, okay. Now we need to set the image from image URL. For this we I will use this AlamofireImage framework. Cell dot image name would be actor image dot image dot af underscore set image. This is the function from AlamofireImage framework, okay. And I could simply pass the image URL here. Image URL again is inside this data source array. To access the particular element, we'll pass the index part.pro, so it will give a particular element, element from a particular index, okay. Now we can access the image URL. We would unwrap it, okay. It's showing the some error, okay. It's showing a error because this function af underscore set image takes an URL, and this image URL is a string. Let's convert string to URL. Let URL is equal to URL, and string that needs to be converted into URL would be passed here. Command C, command V, okay. Now we'll pass this URL variable here. So now what I want to do is in my view controller class, when my view would be loaded, I want to call this function in API manager using this its object shared dot fetch actors from API. I want to call this function, and my actors array here is empty. I want this actors array to get filled up, and from the response that I'll get from this fetch actors API, okay. So I want to fill up and reload my table view here, okay. So here's my table object. I already created an outlet of my table dot reload data, but still my data source array is empty, and again it won't show any row to me, okay. So what I want is this, I want this function to return an actor array, okay, so that I can fill up my data source array with an array that is returned by this actors API. Okay, so let's go back to API manager, and to return we can't directly return this. Okay, we can't directly return this actor array because we are hitting requests using Alamofire, and this function would be called on main thread, and it would execute the request on some other UI thread, so we can't return an actor array from the response normally. Okay, so in this case we will use PromiseKit. First of all, we need to import PromiseKit. Then instead of returning actors array, we would return a promise of type actors array. Okay, now we'll return a promise. A promise has two cases. First one is fulfill, other one is reject. It returns nothing, void in, and inside this we'll put the whole code of our Alamofire, command X and command V. Okay, so now, as I told you, PromiseKit has two cases, fulfill and reject. So fulfill case would be executed in case of successful response. In case of fulfill, I'll return the actors array from actor response dot actors array. Okay, so actor response is the object of this class actor API response, and this is the actors array that I need to get, so I can easily access a non-static variable of a class using its object. That's what I did here. Okay, now in case of error, I'll return the reject case. Okay, simply. So this is the use of PromiseKit. Now what I'll do, I'll store this API call in a variable called API call. Okay, on this API call I can execute a function then, which is provided by PromiseKit, and inside it I'll get whatever returned by this the promise of this function, which and it is returning an actors array here. So I'll get this actors array inside uh, this. Okay, now I'll void in. Okay, now I'll populate my data source array from this actors array. Simply data source array is equal to actors now. Okay, and I'll reload table view inside it. Okay, and in case of this then will execute in case of fulfill response. Okay, and in case of reject, this catch block would be executed. Okay, so inside catch I can catch any error or and print it. Okay, this is showing okay, now okay, this will return error. Okay, so now we are done. Okay, let me also take permission of app transport security settings. So inside it we need to allow arbitrary loads. Okay, so by default it's no, we need to change it to yes. Done. So now let's run it and test it. So it's working fine, we can see. Okay, so one thing we forgot is description cell dot description label. Let's go to cell, actor cell, description label, description label dot text is equal to description. Okay, let's run it again. So here you can see, okay, the data from this API has been fetched, and we have shown it on a table view. Okay, but there is one drawback, the complete description, we can't see the complete description. So let's do the auto layout for this. Let's fix the width and height of this image view, give the leading top space. Okay, top space, horizontal spacing, trailing space. Okay, we can make the trailing space, let's make it 15 from right end. Okay, now we can leading, trailing, okay, and vertical spacing between these two. Okay, again leading and trailing and vertical spacing between these two labels. Okay, then bottom spacing to this label, leading and trailing for this label. This is the description label we have. Okay, now let's run it again. Now there's a problem still, the complete description is not coming. So description could be suppose Brad's Pitt description could be of 10 lines, and Tom Cruise description could be 2 lines. So what I want is, I want this cells to have a dynamic height. Right now they have a fixed height. Okay, right now if you can see, the row height is 183. I don't want a height to be fixed, I want it to be dynamic. So first of all, I need to change some constants. Okay, I need to give it constant from top. Okay, now what I need is to make this label lines, number of lines 0, because what I want is, I want that label to expand up to any number of lines. So I made the number of lines to 0. Now the number of lines would be automatically increased according to the text supplied to it. Okay, so but still the height of the table view row would be fixed, but I don't want that. So what I do is, inside my view did load, I'll do table. Table is the outlet of my table view. Dot estimated row height, suppose so let me give it around 180, the estimated row height, and I'll override one of the function here, height for row at index, this one, and return a UI automatic UI table view automatic dimension. One small thing that I forgot to tell you is here. Okay, this label, okay, if you see, uh, if you click any of the label and go to the scale inspector, you can see the hugging priority is 251, vertical hugging priority is 251, and vertical compression resistance priority is 750. If you will click on this label, I change its vertical hugging priority to 250, so that it won't be all time it won't be hugging its content, it can expand. Okay, and I also change its increase its vertical resistance priority, so that it can be compressed easily by other labels, it can expand easily. Okay, so these two changes you need to make it dynamic. So as you can see, we are done. We are fetching response from an API URL and showing it on a table view with dynamic size of cells. Okay, so you can see this cell is small as we are getting less description here, and this cell is quite large because we are getting more description of Brad Pitt. Okay, and so that's it for this video. In this video we have learned four main IS framework, and we have done web parsing using these frameworks. And if you like this video or you have learned something from this video, then you can like this video, you can comment on this video, you can subscribe our channel, you can also like our Facebook page, or you can also buy the complete series of our video tutorials. Thanks a lot for watching this video. See you in the next